So we've connected to our SSH server by using both the username and password and by using a public key private key combination. Now, one other thing that can help simplify this, and that is we can create a config file. And that config file can make it a little easier for us when we want to trigger SSH connections. So here's how this is going to work. So I'm in my home directory. So get over to the right screen, pwd, you'll see, whoops, I'm not in my home directory. Let me go to my home directory. There we go. That looks better. So I'm in /home/David. And in here, I have a file or a folder called .ssh right here. So I'm going to change directory to .ssh. And here is my files that I have in here now: authorized keys, my public key, private key, known hosts. Okay, so this is everything used by my SSH client. So I'm going to create a new file in here. So I'm going to nano a file and I'm going to call it config, which we need to call it config. This is an SSH config file. So in my SSH config file, I can put in the host, and this is whatever I want to connect to. And by the way, it can be, this is a shortcut name for it. This is not the actual host name that we're going to connect to. We're going to set that in a minute. So it can be a shortcut, it can be a nickname, it can be whatever. So I'm going to say my host, and then enter down to the next line, and here's where I'm going to set my host name, and I can put either the IP address or the host name. I'm going to go ahead and use localhost just because I still have nobody else to connect to. I'm going to set the port number that I want to connect to. So remember, we're talking about doing SSH-P. If you're going to use a different port number, here I can specify that port number. And I'm also going to set the username that I want to connect with. So, and I can put multiple different hosts in here. So I can just, if I've got 5 servers I connect to on a regular basis, I just put 5 of them in here. So I'm going to Control O to save it, and then Control X to exit. Do an LSLA, and here's my config file. So I'm going to go back just for the fun of it. I don't necessarily need to, but I am. So I called that my host. So I'm going to do SSH my host. And I don't need anything else. The rest of it is, oh, I have a bad configuration. Let's try this again. Nano config. So host is my host. Host name is localhost. Port is 22. User, not username, is David. Let's try this again. So I'm going to SSH to my host, and what it should do is read that config file, find my host, and then use all of the options I specified there. Now, because I set a key required in my or a passphrase required for my key, this comes up. See if I can remember what it is. Okay, and I'm in. So all of that was very simplified. Now, I do want to reference one thing. I meant to reference it in the last video and I forgot to. So I'm going to go ahead and reference it now. And that is that passphrase for your key. So if you remember, we did SSH-keygen to generate a key for us. If I do SSH keygen-p, it allows me to change my passphrase. It doesn't necessarily generate new keys for me, so I don't have to re-import keys to servers that I'm going to be connecting to, but it does let me do that, or set or update. There we go. My passphrase. So if you originally created without a passphrase and you decide later on I want one, this will let you put it in. If you need to change your passphrase or you forgot what your passphrase is, this will allow you to change it. So there we go. The config file for your SSH connections to help simplify when you're trying to connect to a remote device using SSH.